intensive practice of devotional service. That is the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Here, the words Mano Mai Arpitam, which mean the mind being fixed on me, meaning Krishna, are significant. One should fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna or his incarnation. To be fixed steadily in that freedom is the way of liberation. Ambarish Maharaj is an example. He fixed his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. He spoke only on the pastimes of the Lord. He smelled only the flowers and tulsi offered to the Lord. He walked only to the temple of the Lord. He engaged his hands in cleansing the temple. He engaged his tongue in tasting the food stuff offered to the Lord. And he engaged his ears for hearing the great pastimes of the Lord. In that way, all his senses were engaged. First of all, the mind should be engaged at the lotus feet of the Lord very steadily and very steadily and naturally, because the mind is the master of the senses. When the mind is engaged at the senses, all the senses become engaged. That is bhakti yoga. Yoga means controlling the senses. The senses cannot be controlled in the proper sense of the term. They are always agitated. This is true also with a child. How long can he be forced to sit down silent? It is not possible. Even Arjuna said, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. The mind is always agitated. The best course is to fix the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. Manomai arpitam stiram. If one seriously engages in Krishna consciousness, that is the highest perfectional stage. All Krishna conscious activities are on the highest perfectional level of human life. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, 25th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Glories of Devotional Service. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Okay, so let's go over this a little bit. So text 44, it says, Itavam evaloke smin, pumsam nishreyasodaya, ivrena bhakti yogena, manomai apitam stiram. So when it says, Itavam eva, only so far, loke, asmin, in this world, pumsa, of men, nishreyas, nishreyasya, final perfection of life, udaya, the attainment of tivrena, intense bhakti yogena, by practice of devotional service, mana, mind, mai, in me, arpitam, fixed, stiram, steady. It's a very nice verse, very nice words also. Therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord engage in the intensive practice of devotional service. That is the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life. So that is the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life. Well, that means there's no other way. This is the only way by which one can attain the perfection or final perfection of life, meaning going back to Godhead. Now, does that mean this is let's say, an exclusive way? There's no other way. You cannot do it in any other way. It's the only way. Yes, that's what it means. You can try other ways, but without fixing the mind on the Lord by continual practice of Krishna consciousness and devotional service, uh, you're not going to be able to achieve this purpose. The purpose is it's the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life. That is, the final perfection of life is to go back to Godhead. You can't do it any other way. And this has been proven uh, for by many, let's say, very exalted devotees in the past. So, if we really want to be liberated from the cycle of birth and death, we have to follow in the footsteps of the uh, great devotees of the past. That means that uh, it has already been done, and the process has been proven. So we don't have to experiment. One time, Prabhupada made the statement: the problem with modern people is they always want to experiment. They always want to uh, try and find new ways of doing things when everything has already been experimented. So if you want to go back to Godhead, the means has already been experimented. You don't have to create a new way. Therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord engage in the intensive practice of devotional service. Intensive means one track mind, it's very focused. That is the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life. So sometimes you have these cowboys who say, well, you say it's the only means, I'll find another way to do it. No, it's not going to work. You can try, but it won't work. So we have to follow what's in the Shastras. Okay, so this is why Prabhupada says, Mano Mai Arpitam, which means the mind being fixed on me. That is exactly the definition of yoga. Real yoga is not a physical exercise. Yoga is fixing the mind on Krishna and engaging in intensive devotional service. And therefore it says, here the words Mano Mai Arpitam, which mean the mind being fixed on me, meaning Krishna, are significant. One should fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna or his incarnation. To be fixed steadily in that freedom is the way of liberation. Well, that's an interesting statement. In other words, when you meditate on Krishna, you are steadily and on the path of freedom from cycle of birth and death. To be fixed steadily in that freedom is the way of liberation. Ambarish Maharaj is an example. He fixed his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. He spoke only on the pastimes of the Lord. He smelled only the flowers smelled only the flowers and tulsi offered to the Lord. He walked only to the temple of the Lord. He engaged his hands in cleansing the temple. He engaged his tongue in tasting the foodstuff offered to the Lord. And he engaged his ears for hearing the great pastimes of the Lord. In that way, all his senses were engaged. First of all, the mind should be engaged at the lotus feet of the Lord very steadily and naturally. Because the mind is the master of the senses, when the mind is engaged, all the senses become engaged. That is bhakti yoga. Yoga means controlling the senses. The senses cannot be controlled in the proper sense of the term. The senses cannot be controlled in the proper sense of the term. They are always agitated. This is true also with a child. How long can he be forced to sit down silent? It is not possible. Even Arjuna said, Chanchalam Himana Krishna. The mind is always agitated. The best course is to fix the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. Mano Mai Arpitam Stiram. If one is seriously engaged in Krishna consciousness, that is the highest perfection stage. All Krishna conscious activities are on the highest perfectional level of human life. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, chapter 25th, third canto, 25th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Glories of Devotional Service. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama. And usually, the last verse of a chapter is like really something that encapsulates or it gives you the gist of the whole chapter. Right? So it's always very helpful because it helps you to understand what that chapter was all about. Okay, so it's all about fixing the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. That's what's called the intensive practice of devotional service. And it's the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life. So that's what we're trying to do as devotees. We try and fix our mind on the Lord. And the way to do it is by intensive practice of devotional service. Intensive meaning it's very, very focused. You don't take your mind away from the Lord. 24 hours focusing on the Lord. So everything a devotee does in life is focused on the Lord, focused on pleasing the Lord. So there's a question we have to always ask. Is what I am contemplating to do something pleasing to Krishna or not pleasing to Krishna? So before we begin an activity, we should ask this question. Is this going to be pleasing to Krishna or not pleasing to Krishna? Is this something that Prabhupada would accept or not accept? So a question like that is what you would call a, let's say, a fundamental cultural question. All right, now culture, what does culture mean, by the way? Culture is the way people do things. So there's specific ways that devotees do things, and there's other ways that other people do things. So in order to be in the culture of Krishna consciousness, you have to only do those things that are pleasing to Krishna and beneficial for humanity. So when a devotee is doing things that are pleasing to Krishna, that means that not only he is benefited, but humanity is benefited also because they see a good example of how to prepare oneself to go back to Godhead and how to act in a very spiritual way. So the behavior of the devotee is the, let's say, path of liberation. If the devotee is fixed up on serving Krishna with love and devotion. So, therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord engage in the intensive practice of devotional service. It's a wonderful statement. That is the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life. So this begs the issue of what you would call what you would call um, take a second dovetailing. Dovetailing means that you organize your activities in such a way that Krishna will be pleased by your activities. So you focus your activities, uh, whatever they are. You can be cooking, you can be cleaning, you can be singing, you can be studying, but it should all always be focused on pleasing Krishna. So there's so many things that you can read. In fact, if you go to a library, thousands and thousands of books, and most of them are nonsense, especially children's books. Have you seen, like children's books? They're like silly subjects, and they use all these silly subjects to so-called educate kids. And if you look at the titles of the books, like Dog Man. Now, now, how is a child going to be educated by reading the word Dog Man? Reading book Dog Man.
That's very popular.
Huh?
Very
It
popular.
is popular. But that's what they use to teach kids how to read. Yeah. Now, just imagine uh, they're using a book like that to educate a kid. Where is the kid going? What's going to be the focus of the life of the kid? Right? Or, there's books on dinosaurs. Now, if you read a book about dinosaurs, how is that going to help to become Krishna conscious? It's not. And by the way, we're not even sure that dinosaurs actually exist. Of course, they have all these, facsimile, uh, replicas of what dinosaurs looked like in museums. The Brontosaurus and the Tyrannosaurus, so forth. But we're not even sure that they actually existed, even though they have these facsimiles of what they look like.
They call them fossils, Maharaj.
Yeah,
And then they say that they are dated to be some years back.
yeah,
They found them in excavations.
yeah. But yeah, you don't know for sure. Have you ever seen a dinosaur? I haven't seen a dinosaur. The closest thing that comes to a dinosaur that's in today, uh, they have them in uh, some islands or places. They have these um, big lizards.
Komodo.
Yeah, Komodo dragon. Yeah, but they're not like these gigantic things. They're like a big lizard. So how do they know that dinosaurs existed? Well, they have these bones, right? And there was this one street musician, a black guy, and his name was Big Bones. He used to be on the street every day singing. That was his name, Big Bone. Yeah. Well, anyway, that doesn't mean he's a dinosaur. But how do we know for sure that they actually existed? I mean, uh, okay, so there are some bones, but has anyone ever seen a dinosaur? I don't think so. You know, uh, we have, the Komodo dragon. Right. Yeah, that's the closest we've ever experienced. Well, that's a living thing that we can experience. But they're not like gigantic, beasts. It's a beast, but maybe 12 feet long. I want you to see how big it is. Komodo dragon. Yeah, I'm not interested in seeing one, but they do exist on some like Guinea. I think it's Guinea or uh, Indonesian islands. Yeah, on islands. Yeah. Komodo, Rinca, Flores, Gili. So this is a powerful predator belonging to the monitor lizard family. The lizard. Yeah, can reach up to 10 feet in length. Right. Weigh about 150 pounds. Right. People go on vacations to see them. sometimes, sometimes they get hurt also, 'cause those things are hungry, you know. The dangerous sign is a big lizard, right? I mean, there's different sizes of lizards, but they're the biggest ones. Yeah, they're carnivores and primarily feed on large prey like deer, wild boar, water buffalo. And human beings. Yeah, they're ambush predators. Whoa, that's dangerous. Ambush predator. That means so don't go where they are. Good thing they're on islands. Are they on the major continents or are they just on islands? No, they're on these islands only. Oh, thank God. Imagine what it'd be like to live. I mean, there are indigenous people living on those islands. Yeah.
Well,
They're
most asked question is, can I keep a Komodo dragon as a pet?
Very important.
There was a lady that did that.
Mm.
There was a lady that bought one and kept it as a pet. And when it got bigger and bigger, it tried to kill the lady. I'm not sure if it was the Komodo, but it was a lizard. She bought a lizard, but when it was a baby, right? And it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually it attacked her and tried to kill her.
They rely on stealth and explosive speed to catch the prey.
There you go. Oh man, that's
The
like
word explosive speed means they run at a rapid pace.
wow. Just imagine being caught by a Komodo dragon. Oh my God, why would people ever go where those things exist? But they're only on islands,
Yeah.
not on
Yeah, right
continents.
now,
Only in Indonesia.
Indonesian islands.
Maharaj, so the original Komodo dragons are in Indonesia, but they've been created also in like Florida and other places.
They've been what?
Like created.
Created?
Created?
How do you mean created?
Like reproduced.
What?
How can they be reproduced?
I don't know, we did. Maybe they transported the.
Yeah.
No, not like that. Like in zoo or something. I don't know. Yeah, they took it like that.
Wow. That would be good for like really bad thieves and put them in a cell with the Komodo dragon. And see how long they would remain alive.
Looks very scary.
Oh my God. Because they're carnivores, they eat meat. So, yeah. That's one of the worst things that could happen to a person to get caught by a Komodo dragon. Oh my God. Okay. So, again, this is one of those, let's say, uh, verses at the end of a chapter. So every time we come to the end of a chapter, it's like a summary verse of the whole chapter. And it says, therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord engage in the intensive practice of devotional service. That is the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life. So when it says only means, that means it's exclusive. There's no other way. And a lot of people are put off by statements like that, you know, because it's sort of indicating that there's an elite, small number of people who can achieve such a goal. And it's a fact. It says out of thousands of people, one may try for perfection. And out of thousands of people who have achieved perfection, only one will know me in truth. So to become a genuine and pure devotee is a very rare thing.
They say
They say one bad apple and the whole bushel goes bad.
I was trying to trust that lady got
What's
killed by
that?
the crocodile.
The lady got eaten by the crocodile. Oh my God, that's in Florida.
Maharaj, in the translation of this verse, it says, therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord engage in the intensive practice of devotional service. So, let's say if somebody is engaging in devotional service, but their mind is not fixed on the Lord,
And it's not intensive.
will they eventually be able to fix their mind as they keep doing service?
Yes, it's possible. I mean, that's the only way.
Yeah.
Practice makes perfect. It's like someone who's learning to play the violin. Practice makes perfect. I had this one violin teacher, and he would start from the beginning, right? So, and he called it scratch a doodle because when you first trying to play the violin, it's like that. But eventually, you get trained and you can make nice, music. So there's always a beginning, and we shouldn't be afraid of the beginning. But nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. So we can always say, well, I want to do this, but if you never get to try to do it, you don't achieve anything. So we should focus our mind on what's most important. What is most important? Keep the mind focused on Krishna. It's not necessarily being a very good musician or being a very good singer or being able to climb mountains or whatever. It's focusing your mind on Krishna. And you have people that they spend their whole life as musicians, right? But they're not focusing on Krishna. Like, for example, jazz musicians, they uh, uh, they play all kinds of different tunes on the saxophone or the clarinet or whatever, but it's not necessarily Krishna conscious at all. They're just making noise basically their whole life. Especially a jazz musician, they improvise their riffs. I think that's what they call it, riffs. And they do the solo riff. But from the beginning to the end, it just takes your mind off of Krishna. Doesn't mean that there's something of, let's say, substantive uh, power or substantive experience. It's just a bunch of notes. They're being played, and after they finish, everyone claps like this, right? But that's it. What do you remember from that? You don't remember anything from a jazz musician. Uh, it's at least when you hear the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, you can remember something. You remember the Hare Krishna mantra. Right? But you listen to someone that does a uh, what you would call a uh, what's the name? It's, he makes up uh, a riff, or what is it? I forget the name now. Anyway, you don't really learn anything from it. You can't even remember it. Right? They have this freeform music, and you're just playing a bunch of notes. Afterwards, everyone claps their hand, and they say he's a great musician and so forth. Uh, but you can't. It doesn't really make your life better, right? Whereas if you chant Hare Krishna, okay, that's music also. That's also it's also poetic, you know. But you can remember something. But somebody who's just uh, playing what is it, improvisation, right? Like on the saxophone, they improvise. There's nothing to remember, you know. And people clap their hands, but if you ask them, well, what do you remember from that improvisation? They say, well, it was a great music, but it doesn't really help you understand anything about life. So basically, it's a waste of time.
Mhm.
Maharaj, one more question.
Yeah.
Therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord right?
Mhm.
Can it be fixed on the activity for the Lord?
Well, that means it's fixed on the Lord because it's an activity for the Lord. You know, yeah.
I just
That's the way to fix your mind on the Lord. Be engaged in activity
for the Lord.
for the Lord.
So if someone is doing like the cleaning, floor cleaning or pot washing
For the Lord.
for the Lord, so they are focused on that activity, like cleaning the pots, so that and doing
Well,
for
no, you can
Krishna.
you can get a job in a restaurant, clean pots all day long. That is not for the Lord, right? But you come to the temple, you wash the dishes and everything, the pots that's for the Lord, because it's going to be used to cook food to offer to the Lord. Right? But it's important. It's not a mundane activity because if you don't do that, how are they going to cook? Right?
For Krishna. Yeah.
Yeah.
So while the activity is going on, then the mind of devotee is focused that I'm doing it for Krishna's pleasure, that because the bhoga will be cooked.
Most people would never do it. Like a husband, right? He never washes the dishes. The wife does the dishes. Right? Then he becomes a devotee, and all of a sudden he's washing dishes. Something he would never do at home. You see. Why? Because it's for the Lord. So there is a difference between washing dishes and washing dishes for the Lord. Some people, and that's usually men, they never wash dishes. Not all men, but a lot of men, that's something ladies do, right? But when they become initiated in Krishna consciousness, they actually wash dishes because it's for the Lord. And usually, there are women that wash, the dishes for the Lord, but usually it's a lot of men that do it, whereas they never would do it at home.
At home.
Yeah. So there's something about for the Lord, that makes it special. Yeah. Okay. So now this is the last verse of this chapter. So therefore, it's going to basically summarize what was in the whole chapter. And it says, therefore, in other words, this is the word therefore is something that summarizes things. No. Therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord engage in the intensive practice of devotional service. That is the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life. So see that's a verse that is summarizing everything in that chapter. And therefore it's exclusive. It says it's the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life. There's no other way. Harinama, 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 Vikevalam, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Katiranyatai. The only way is Harinama, 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 Vikevalam, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Katiranyatai. We should remember that every day. We should say that every day. It's no other way, no other way, no other way than Harinama, 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 Harinama. Say. So this verse is also emphasizing exclusiveness. Therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord engage in the intensive practice of devotional service. That is the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life. Harinama, 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 Evikevalam, Hello, Nasteva, 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 Gatiranyata. There's no other means except chanting Hare Krishna. So that's what we should focus on. And here, see, we're reading things that say there's no other way. Right? And some people are really put off by that. They say, no, I'll find some other way, I'll become a millionaire by finding another way.
They say there are God created so many ways. Why are you saying only one?
Who says that?
Atheists or Maya.
Uh,
They also give example of rivers start their journey from different places, but they end in the ocean.
There are so many ways.
What does that mean? I don't understand.
There's
All the rivers end up in the same ocean.
So all paths.
All paths
are
lead to Rome, that kind of argument.
Yeah, but what does it mean exactly? Is that
Means
something that has a spiritual connotation?
like Bhakti Yoga, or Jnana Yoga, or Karma Yoga, or Ashtanga Yoga. They all parallel paths. They lead to the same truth.
Okay.
So, but for us, I think we see through Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, if you can't do this, do this. If you can't do this, do this. For us, it's a sequential.
Hierarchy.
Well, for a lot of other people, they taking it as parallel. They're not the sequential steps.
Mhm.
In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna clearly says it's a sequential process. If you can't do this, do this. But people are interpreting that way that they're all different parallel paths to reach the same truth.
All paths lead to Rome.
Wrong.
Exactly.
That's not true.
And then they also say that God only created all these paths. So why are you excluding other paths?
Who says that? Which rascal said that?
There's a whole rascal now.
Everybody.
It's like
There's this one guy I met once.
Everyone is not connected to Bhakti Maharaj.
Right. Yeah. I met this guy once, and I asked him. I said, "What do you want to be in life?" Life? And he said, "I want to be an IT guy." I said, "Why is that?" I said, "Because they get rich." I said, "Oh, okay. Are you studying IT?" He said, "No." So I said, "Well, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm smoking marijuana." I said, "Well, how can you become an IT rich guy if you smoke marijuana?" He said, "Well, 90% of the IT guys smoke marijuana." I said, "Well, how do you know that?" I said, I don't think that type of research has ever been made, that 90% of the IT guys smoke marijuana. And that doesn't mean that by you smoking marijuana, you attain what they have attained, right? But he actually believed that. And that's why he said he was going to be an IT guy by smoking marijuana. Crazy people in life. You meet all kinds of crazy people. Of course, when you're out on the streets preaching Krishna consciousness, you meet all kinds of people. And some people are really good. Some people are really crazy. You know? So what can you do? You just can't. There's not much you can tell people like that.
yeah.
They're not susceptible to hearing something that makes sense because their whole life is nonsense.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have my friend. Have for over the years, I have influenced him to direct his vision to the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
But now I can see he got engulfed by Mayavadi philosophy. That he's believing a faith that one day can become Krishna.
He's what?
One day he's developing faith that
He'll become Krishna. Where did you learn that?
So his guru, I asked his guru also. I think
So he has a guru.
yeah.
No,
He's
those are kangaroos. They're not gurus.
What I appreciate Guru Maharaj is their faith in the Guru is seems sometimes overwhelming to us. They have so much faith in their Guru, even the kind of Guru. He's not initiated, but the way he's like passionate about his Guru. So
He
I
can't
was
be
like,
that passionate. He's not initiated.
they're not initiated. He's so passionate that like it is that positive qualities able to surrender to
Well,
Guru.
it's just
even
like
though he's
it's just like a mouse. A mouse will have 6 or 7 ways to avoid getting caught. In other words, they have 6 or 7 or maybe 10 holes, right? So they don't just have one hole to get away with. They dig different holes. So these nonsense people, they always have 6 or 7 or 8 ways how to avoid becoming bona fide. You know,
Because of the false ego. See, they are not actually attached to the guru. They are attached to their desire to become powerful. And they see the guru as a means. So that somebody is giving me a path. As soon as they become powerful and as powerful as or the false ego comes to that point, they'll ditch that guru and then they'll create their own brand. So that's what it is.
well, we see that. You know, there was let's see. You have all these guys who uh, became gurus after the guru died. Trying to think of the names. I always forget the names about them. Why? Anyway, what we need to do is follow the parampara. This is what the nonsense people don't do. They don't get connected to any bona fide parampara. They either uh, uh, initiate their own parampara or they become cheated by following someone who's not in a bona fide parampara. So there are four bona fide paramparas. But many of the modern so-called gurus have created their own parampara. And usually it doesn't go more than maybe 1 or 2 generations. And you say, well, who's your guru? And they'll give you some name. You know? And what is their affiliation? And they'll give you some names of, well, they always give the name usually of, what is it called? Something G, Panditji. They say Panditji. Is that right? They say Panditji. Which Panditji are you talking about? Right? This so-called, why don't you look that up? It's a so-called Panditji who's like, the original guru of all the nonsense people. And they talk about him all the time. But who is that Panditji? I don't know. Do you know who that is?
Mayavadi Guru, Maharaj.
Yeah. Yeah, the Mayavadi guru. They name him as Panditji. Right? What is our chat or whatever?
GPT.
Yeah, what is that? DPD say about Panditji.
Hare Krishna Maharajji, while they are searching on ChatGPT, can I ask one question?
Yes, go ahead.
Initially, when you read that, so it's Bhagavatam says you need to please Krishna. When I'm cooking for myself or my family or my daughters. How should I change that perspective? How should I change my thinking? Like every time I know that I want to please Krishna, but I don't start cooking. That is the, what you can say, natural thinking comes. I start cooking for myself, for my family or guest or whoever is coming.
Well, you see, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking. No, you're actually cooking for Krishna because you're going to offer the food first
Yes.
to Krishna. Then you offer it to others as Krishna's prasad. So you're actually cooking for Krishna. You're not cooking for this person or that person.
Okay.
And the point is that before you're going to serve all these guests or friends or whoever or relatives, you're first going to offer the food to Krishna. That means you're cooking for Krishna. And now what they're going to eat is Krishna Prasad.
Mhm.
I said everything depends on what your motive is. If your motive is to please Krishna, then you will do everything to make a proper offering to the Lord. And then the Lord offers it back to you as his prasadam or as his mercy. And then you give that to your guests. Now you're not cooking for your guests. You're cooking, you cook for Krishna, and now you're offering the guests Krishna prasadam. But if you're cooking for your guests, then it's not prasadam. Everything depends on what you are thinking. You can, there was this one man, he was very poor. He heard a lecture by a devotee that even if you don't have any means, in other words, no money to make an opulent offering, an opulent feast for the Lord, you can meditate on doing it, and it's the same thing. When he heard that, he became very happy. He said, now I'm so poor, but now I can make very opulent offerings to the Lord. And he began to meditate, on getting all kinds of first class vegetables and first class drinks and things like that. And he was meditating on making these very opulent offerings to the Lord. And one day he was working on making some very nice kheer. And at one point, he wanted to test to see if it was finished. And he put his finger, this is all in his mind, right? He put his finger to test it, and it burned him. And all of a sudden, he got shocked. And then when he looked at his finger, it was actually burned. Didn't burn it and lose it, but it was all red and it hurt. Right? So his meditation was so, let's say, focused and genuine that he was actually cooking. Does that answer your question, Mataji?
Yes, Maharaji. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Everything depends on your consciousness. Right? That's why they say Krishna consciousness, not Maya consciousness, Krishna consciousness. So you can focus your mind completely on Krishna, then you're Krishna conscious. Haribol. All right. Anything else?
Then Maharaj, in the what would taking Krishna's name or his incarnation is same. Whether we take the name of Krishna or Kapila,
Yeah.
the outcome is same. But our devotee's preference is because of the Leela that Krishna performs is more connected to deeper love. Is that how we should understand?
Well, Lord Chaitanya had a devotee who could never take his mind off of he couldn't meditate on Krishna. He could only meditate on Rama. And he asked Lord Chaitanya, he said, I can't take my mind off of Rama. And Lord Chaitanya told the devotee, he said, just look at him. He's such a pure servant of Lord Rama. We should also aspire to be like him. Be fixed completely on Krishna. But he used him as an example. So whether you focus your mind on Rama or Krishna or one of the incarnations of the Lord, it's all the same thing in the sense that you're focusing your mind on the Lord or his pastime incarnation. But it does say in the Shastra that those devotees who are completely dedicated on the form of Shyam Sundar and not any other form, that is the best. You can look that statement up.
What's the specific one, Maharaj?
Huh? It's that,
Where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the devotee with who's attached to Rama.
Yeah.
Maharaj, in the
By worshiping Lord Rama, you can attain liberation, but you don't necessarily attain Vaikuntha. You get liberated, but you don't attain Vaikuntha.
I think there's another question. Go ahead, Mataji. While we are
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Hare Krishna Prabhu. So, Maharaj, I have a question. Let's say that people have different kinds of professions, right? Career, and we have to offer the fruits to Krishna, but at the same time, for example, let's say that someone is opening a vegetarian restaurant, like Govinda's, okay, following all the rules, and still earning money out of that, right? So it's a profession which is common to I mean, it is so how is that taken, like, because it is prasadam, and the money is being taken, we are also earning out of it, so how do we look at it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understand your question. You're
Okay.
I mean, there are professional people that cook for a living.
Yeah.
And they're pretty, let's say famous chefs and people, respect them because they're very good cooks.
Right.
But they're not necessarily devoted. They're not offering the food to the Lord. They're just cooking.
So my question is it okay, let's say, to have a business which is making prasadam, offering to the Lord, and then selling it? Is that okay?
Yes.
That's okay. And then second question to this is that sometimes some of the professions, this was just an example, but some of the professions require a certain kind of presence, certain kind of, let's say, formal dressing, or this thing. Is that okay to adjust, compromise on that?
Okay, let's understand what it means.
Okay.
If your mind is focused on Krishna,
Uh-huh.
and you offer the food that you're preparing to Krishna, then that becomes prasadam. And now you distribute it. Okay, now, is it proper to sell prasadam? That's the question. Prabhupada did say that you don't sell prasadam. It should be free. So then how can you make money by making prasadam? Like, for example, when we go on Sankirtan or when we have Sunday feast, it's free, isn't it?
Yes.
We don't.
Yeah.
And there are temples, yeah. They go around and say, well, you gotta get $5, so you get $10. Or you sell books. They say, well, this book costs so much, you have to give us so much money, right?
Yeah, the Vegas temple plus London temple. Yeah. Go in the restaurant they call, you have to pay money to pay the food.
Right. Well, there are temples. Oh, that's a temple. Temple.
I asked the Veda-based chat GPT.
Yeah.
About did Prabhupada disallow selling prasadam? Apparently, it says that Srila Prabhupada did not outright disallow selling of the prasadam, but he emphasized that the primary objective of distributing prasadam was to offer Krishna's mercy rather than to focus on the commercial gain. In his vision, prasadam distribution should be primarily serve as an act of love and devotion meant to benefit the society spiritually. While in some instances prasadam might be sold to support temple activities or reach more people, he encouraged that it be made widely available, ideally as a free offering, especially to those who cannot afford it. For example, Srila Prabhupada promoted the idea of prasadam distribution programs and free feasts as a way to share spiritual consciousness. Selling prasadam could sometimes be permissible to help sustain these programs, but the spirit of generosity and compassion should remain central to the practice.
I was taught never to sell prasadam.
Basically, even first main point is only if you don't have any other means to sustain. But even then, he said like don't make prasadam 100%. Money only. Like you should be able to have certain amount of prasadam for sure as free at least for people who cannot afford and so on.
Yeah, I never sold prasadam. And we would always do it, even if we were poor, we always gave it away for free.
So Maharaj, I think Mataji's question is, so selling prasadam to maintain the temple or the activities of Krishna is one thing. But if somebody is
an individual,
as an individual earning money out of these devotional activities and for their living, is that allowed?
No. You're not allowed to make a living by distributing books
Or prasadam,
Yeah.
selling prasadam.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it. You can do it, but it's not recommended.
But let's say Maharaj, like this catering to the devotees. Okay, that's a business concept.
You mean having a restaurant like Govinda's?
Yeah, Govinda's, for example.
Prabhupada never discouraged people from opening, Govinda restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
He never said, "Oh, that's nonsense." Let's see. You have to make a decision in your life. I had many opportunities of opening a restaurant. I never did it. I said, "No, I'm not going to do it," and always distributed things for free. But what my experience was that people became more benefited by getting free things than by selling them something. And if they see it's offered with love and devotion to the Lord, and then offered with the same respect to the people, they really appreciate it. And many people say, "What's the hook? What's the gimmick? And why is it free?" And I always tell them, because we love you, and they're like shocked.
Too hard for them to be.
Yeah. And, because they're so used to people offering free samples, and all of a sudden then they hook them to buy something, right? But normally prasadam is not meant to be sold. It's meant to be free for the public. But there are some temples, you go to the Sunday feast, they ask you to give a donation.
Yeah, they charge.
Yeah. Only crazy people like me make it free.
There's another question. Yes, go ahead, Namagir.
Maharaj, Hare Krishna.
Yes.
if we buy outside food, can we still offer to God and before we take if we cannot cook?
Well, you have to ask who was the cook. If his name
Okay.
is Ahmed or something like that, you can't offer that.
Okay.
But why would you want to get outside food?
Sometimes if we go outside and we can't, I mean, when we go vacation or something, like just.
Yeah, but you would have to analyze who's the cook, what are the utensils, so forth. You just can't go out and,
Yeah,
you know,
definitely we don't buy other restaurants other than Indian.
that doesn't mean anything. A
Okay.
lot of Indian restaurants are, you know, they say veg and non-veg. Average, veg and non-veg.
Menu card, it's like that.
Yeah. So how can you eat food in a restaurant that's veg and non-veg, you know? And you don't even know. I mean, some of them say, well, we have different parts. How do you know? You don't really know.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but when we offer, all the negativity go away, right?
When we what? I didn't understand.
Offer when we offer to Krishna,
Yes.
even of outside food, so all the negativity go away, right? It will become prasad. No.
I'm not sure if I understand your
So
question.
can we take anything, like, even though let's say it's veg food and offer, will the negativity go away of that food and karma impact when we offer it?
And will it become purified when we offer? Even though source is not unknown and it might be a contaminated
The
food.
sources are unknown.
Because they don't know who the cook is in the restaurant. Right?
Oh, then you should never take it.
And then her question is, if we offer that kind of food to Krishna, will Krishna purify it?
No.
Because
No?
Krishna will not accept it, right? Because in that case, that food was already, kind of self gratification was already done for some other person.
How can it be prasadam if it's cooked by a non-devotee? We're not allowed to eat food cooked by a non-devotee. If we initiated to cook.
Just see our example, like if the children cook the food for the parents, when they come visit us, they'll be happy. But if you keep buying from the restaurant and feed the parents, how much happy they can be.
Okay.
Prasadam is something very, very exclusive and special. Everything is not prasadam. So it's food that's vegetarian, there's no garlic and onion, cooked by people who are genuine devotees. They take a bath before they cook and so forth. So, it's a science of Krishna consciousness in order to cook prasadam and for it to actually be prasadam. And it depends on the consciousness of the person. It's not simply a mechanical thing.
Yeah.
And,
It's not just a physical thing.
yeah, it's not just a cook. Someone who's cooking for Krishna is not an ordinary cook. They are meditating. Please, Krishna, accept this offering. And they're being very careful about the cleanliness and about, like, for example, a devotee will never eat leftovers. You have a refrigerator, right? So you didn't finish cooking something, you didn't finish eating something. So you put the leftovers in the refrigerator. And then, 1 week later, you eat that. It's not recommended at all, right? And you just read the history of devotees, of women devotees who cook. They never would eat leftovers. They would always distribute it to the people. After they finished eating, if there were any leftovers, they would distribute it to the public. They would go outside and say in a very loud voice, "Is there anyone who is hungry? Please come and have this nice prasadam." They would not put the food that there's not eaten in a refrigerator and then eat it the next day or 1 week later. They never would do that.
Even prasadam was.
Yeah, prasadam. Yeah, yeah. You have to be careful when you're. We don't eat stale things.
Within 2 to 3 hours, finish it. According to
Yeah, okay, maybe 3 hours, but that's it.
3 hours.
Yeah.
In purport, Srila Prabhupada writes.
Yeah,
With
3 hours.
It's much more hygienic.
Yeah.
The worst thing you can do is to go, let's say, the Whole Foods, where they have
day.
Frozen section.
not frozen, no, they have cooked food, and you can scoop it up yourself.
Daily.
Yeah,
What do they call it?
Daily.
jelly.
Well,
DELI.
yeah, in other words, you're able to scoop it up yourself, put it in your own plate. You know, that you should be very careful. I would never do that. I would never eat that food. You don't know. You don't know if it's clean or not clean. Maybe somebody spit in it when nobody was looking. You don't know. And that happens a lot. If someone spits in your dal, well, you know that
Nobody knows.
nobody knows. So you shouldn't take a risk like that. But it's best not to eat outside.
Right.
You know. Now, there are restaurants like Govinda's, right? Well, maybe, but even that, I don't know if that's good. There's nothing like home cooking, and then offering it nicely and sitting down with your family and eating. Going to restaurant, it's very right on the brink of being nonsense, right? It's so easy for people that are not Krishna conscious to be involved with that restaurant. Like, for example, in Mayapur, they were, I don't know if they still are doing it, they were hiring outside people to come and cook.
In restaurants.
No, just for the devotees.
Oh, Krishna.
They were not non-devotees. I don't know if they're still doing it. And so the so-called prasadam that we were eating was made by non-devotees in Mayapur.
Yeah.
Because I guess they couldn't get the devotees to do it, right? So they're paying professionals to come and cook.
That happens in Indian temples.
Yeah.
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 ISKCON temples.
It happens in ISKCON temple. Some ISKCON.
Somewhere.
There's one more question by Aryan. Go ahead, Aryan.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Well,
I had one question about, I guess, what would you advise someone in terms of the general etiquette of someone who's outside and like, suppose we're in like any group or work environments where we have to, be always talking with, let's say, interacting with females and etc. Like, what is the etiquette? Because I know in the temple, we always want to be respectful and we always say Mataji because we like to think of everyone who's not like as our mother, right? How do we approach that in outside of the temple environment?
I don't know if I understand your question.
Work environment. If there are females.
Yeah.
In temple, we have an etiquette and we respect every woman as Mataji.
Yeah.
But if we are in a work environment,
yeah,
and if there are females who are colleagues,
yeah,
how should I approach? Address them or like, I mean, obviously you cannot say Mataji, but what should be, how can we deal with that?
Well, you have to have respect for all people. whether they're in a temple or whether they're devotees or not devotees. And a devote, like look at Haridas Thakur, this prostitute comes to make him fall down. He didn't say, go away. He said, okay, you sit here, and when I finish chanting my rounds, then I will do whatever you want me to do. But he never finished chanting his round. So she came back one, twice, by the third time, being up all night long, hearing him chanting, she became a devotee. So we should follow that example. Haridas Thakur, we should always be chanting Hare Krishna and never have any time for sense gratification. In our relationships also, like oftentimes, if you're working in a company, then they have a company dinner or a company luncheon. So what do? You bring your own food. So you very quietly, everybody else is being served, you just quietly put your own lunch or your own food in front of you, and you eat that. Right? So they'll say, well, what's the matter? You say, well, I'm a little bit sick, so I have a special diet. Oh, okay. You're still at the company lunch, right? You didn't say, well, I'm not going to sit down, you guys. You're all a bunch of demons. No, you don't say anything like that. So you bring your own food to the company lunch. So, and you do it in a very discreet way, right? And if they say, well, are you sick or what? Why? How come you're not eating it? I say, well, I have a special diet. I have to be very careful. Oh, okay. They don't have to go into a big thing. Oh, wow, I don't eat this type of nonsense food. And I'm a devotee of Krishna, and we don't eat outside. No, we just say, I have a special diet, and be very careful what I eat.
Yeah, they all respect if you just say, I have a special diet needs.
Yeah. Most people, if you say things in a nice way, they respect you.
Yes, ma'am.
And we say, oh, you guys are a bunch of nonsense people. I don't eat this type of food. Yeah. I don't want to sit next. I don't want to eat meat. You're a meat eater. Meathead. I have to be careful. There are good people that eat meat, but they're not really good. But they're mostly moral, and they don't lie, they don't cheat. So, but if they see that you have principle, they respect that. They respect that. If they're nonsense people, they don't respect. But most people are nice, in America. Well, it depends where you are in America also. But most people respect a person who has principle, especially that those principles are good, and religiously, let's say, connected. Just like, someone, you have to get a vaccination, So the teacher says, well, today we're giving vaccinations. So then you come to the school that day, and you have a letter from your parents that says that it's not our religious recommendation to take vaccination. Well, they can't force you, right? They'll try and scare you, they'll do everything to force you to take that vaccination. But if you have a letter from your parents that say, no, my child is not going to take this vaccination, they can't force you. But they say, yeah, but if there is a epidemic, your child will not be allowed to come to the school. Well, of course, who would want to go to the school if there's an epidemic? Look, force you to, get, a needle in your arm if you say that, my parents don't believe in this, and and they'll say, well, if there's an epidemic, you can't come to the school. Okay, fine, but if there was an epidemic, I wouldn't go to school anyway. So what's the big thing? Okay, so thank you very much. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Jay.
I think there's one last hand raised by.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj. So there was a discussion, I guess, slightly, a few minutes back about the Govinda restaurants, whether it's okay to.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, one of the things was whether it should be done or not, but there was also a question of like it's okay to eat in those places, right? Because they're food made by devotees and all. So what is how does it extend to, like, let's say, I mean, there are certain organizations like Swaminarayan, for example, right? They also have, so someone had asked about, I think, a question about when you're on vacation, this and that. So there are, for example, the Swaminarayan folks, they pretty much follow the same, mode of like no onion, no garlic, and their devotees are preparing. And so are those restaurants okay to, um, or is it still like a consciousness difference?
Well, I like what you said, the last words, is it consciousness.
Okay.
Why? I mean, some people will never eat outside, never, because they can't be absolutely sure that the food is made by genuine devotees and offered to Krishna. Now, if this other group is making food and offering it to Swami, to some Swami, right?
Yeah.
Should we eat that? Answer: no.
Okay.
You shouldn't eat it, no matter how good it looks, no matter if it's vegetarian or whatever, because everything depends on the consciousness. It's like, let's say you go to a restaurant where all the cooks and the restaurateurs are disciples of Sadhguru, and the
Right.
food was offered to Sadhguru. Would you eat it?
Probably
No.
not.
No.
So what about, let's say, Sri Vaishnavas?
The Sri Vaishnavas.
Yes.
Well, they're close to us, very close to us, but I still would not eat. I still would not eat. You can bring your own lunch and eat with them, but we should be very careful about what we eat.
Let's say in Balaji temple,
Yeah,
the priests
yeah.
cook.
Do they distribute the food? I don't think they distribute the food.
Once in a while, they do also cook.
Uh-huh.
And then that becomes prasadam.
Okay.
Was that, but wasn't there some controversy recently about the laddus or something they were giving in the Tirupati?
Yeah, there they contaminated one of the ingredients itself, where they get the source, the ghee.
Oh, anyway, let's talk about our own temple.
Yeah. Our temple. So in our temple, first of all, there are devotees cooking for sure.
Yeah.
They.
So do the pujaris cook in our temple?
Once in a while, I think they do. Like, for example, on certain special occasions, they also.
Not for mass distribution, right?
Not for mass distribution, but for bhoga. They do prepare. And then that obviously gets.
And they distribute it?
Yeah, I mean, eventually, it is actually considered prasadam, right? No, it's. So now the question is, and also I think going forward, let's say if they want to have separate kitchen, then obviously only Sri Vaishnavas will cook, or whoever is qualified in that one. So how will we, are we saying that we cannot eat that? And then the temple that we are promoting,
Okay, I'm not understanding this last point you made.
it's a temple that we are promoting. People are coming.
Yeah.
And let's say they want to have their own. Right now, it's a kitchen that mostly we are preparing.
Yeah, like
but eventually they said they wanted to have their own kitchen.
oh, say.
The Sri Vaishnava, I mean, according to
In our temple?
in our temple, but that's what Tarak Prabhu said. Like eventually they need to have separate stove and everything so they can make their own stuff. We
Who
talked.
said that? Taraka?
Yeah. Well, that's the conversation just this week that happened. So anyway, so that's it's
No,
not
that's
there right now.
because the Sri Vaishnavas are insisting that they should have their own cooks in our temple for their own programs or for all programs. I don't know, but
Either we are insisting or they are insisting. I'm not sure. In the sense, like, eventually if Radha Krishna temple comes, then there has to be separation.
in other words, we're allowing non-devotees, even though they're devotees of
Other sampradayas.
sampradayas, we're allowing them to cook. Is that what we're doing now?
Yeah.
Well, that's not ideal. I don't think Prabhupada would accept that.
But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he went to South India, did he ever not accept any?
He only went to the houses of genuine devotees.
But are they not devotees of other sampradayas?
Maybe.
So did he not accept prasadam there? Or?
Well, he would only go to the houses of to eat of genuine Vaishnavas. He would not eat the food from non-Vaishnavas.
Yeah, we're only talking about Vaishnava, but Sri Vaishnavas.
It doesn't really say. I mean, you can read it. It's in the books. He would eat at people's houses, but they had to be genuine devotees. You can look it up. He would only eat in the houses, some homes of genuine, what do you call it? Devotees. Now, I don't know whether it was Sri Vaishnava devotees or some other devotee, but he was very careful about where he would accept food.
So,
and he would not go to other places where he was invited.
So in the case, let's say I was looking up Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who saw a devotee in the South India who was fully dedicated to serving Lord Rama. He saw the intense devotion to Lord Rama.
Right.
And he, in fact, encouraged other devotees to
follow his
example.
Yeah.
So let's say if such a devotee prepares sadham and offers to Lord Rama, he's not in the Gaudiya Parampara, and he is offering to Lord Rama. And
Lord Rama is in the Gaudiya Parampara, isn't he?
So that's like Balaji is not considered in the Vishnu avatars like Narayana.
How's that? Balaji is young Krishna.
So in that case, like whatever we offer to Balaji, is that not considered prasadam?
How can it be not considered prasadam? Balaji is Krishna.
So then Sri Vaishnavas, when they offer it to Balaji, why is it not considered prasadam?
Which Sri Vaishnava?
Sri Vaishnava, yeah, our priests.
Our priest.
Yeah.
Usually, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but usually, Tarika's wife is cooking. Maybe not every
Not
day.
every time. Not every time.
Yeah.
There are other. We're also.
Well, it should be that only devotees should be cooking. If it's not happening, then it should happen. But from what I understood, it was just her that was cooking most of the time.
Let's say if Butter Pujari.
Yeah, he cooks.
Then what do we do? Or do we accept that or no?
We let the people accept it, and we don't. Yeah. We shouldn't tell him that, But yeah, if there's no, I mean, sometimes Tarika's wife can't cook, right? So yeah, Bhattar is cooking in those days. And it's okay to give it to the general public, but not for the devotees. Yeah. Usually I mean, every time I go there, they always offer me an apple or an orange or something like that. They don't say sit down and have prasadam, Whenever it's sit down and have prasadam, it's our devotees that cooked it and are distributing it. Now, some of those people that are distributing, they're not devotees, but they're volunteers.
So, Maharaj, if we are traveling, let's say, and is it safer to just have fruits and milk, just offer it within your this thing and just eat that rather than if we are traveling and very special circumstances I'm talking about, of course. So, what is the protocol for that? Like,
Well, there's really no excuse, when you're traveling. There's always going to be, Whole Foods, or there's going to be, different types of grocery shops. We can go and get fresh food and offer it and eat it. Almost everywhere you can find a grocery store where you can buy things and cook it and offering it or eat it raw.
okay, thank you, Ma.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fruits and all, if you are willing to eat them as raw, then you can offer and it cannot be cooked food.
No, but you can be organized. Like you can have a small,
carry a cow or something. Like
yeah, what do you call it?
Killet kind of thing. Like, and you can or a instant pot.
Right. Okay. So no, I was looking. Moreover, I meant long flights. When we are on long flights, that time we can carry some food, of course, with us, but just in
Yes.
special. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We should only eat bona fide prasadam.
Okay.
We should not eat the airplane food.
The Jain meal.
Yeah, the Jain meal. Yeah. Not so good anyway. Really tapasya.
Yeah. I think again it goes back to not just the ingredients, it's the consciousness of the people that are cooking. If
Yes.
we cannot validate it and
Yes.
they're not devotees, then we should avoid.
Yeah.
Harivilas.
But when you're in an airplane, I mean, you can ask them, do you have some milk? They'll say, yes. Right. You have, an apple.
Apple, true.
Yes. You know, so there is something you can eat on an airplane. So they'll always make some effort to give you something, right? So they have apples, they have milk, and they have what else do they have? Well, basically they have apples, they have milk, they have bread. But bread you don't really want to eat. So anyway, it's only for a few hours,
They
right?
do typically have fruits.
Yeah, they have
grapes.
fruit. Yeah, they definitely will give you fruits.
Yeah.
You know, you tell them I'm a fruitarian.
What about cheese, Maharaj?
Cheese is it's very.
Yeah, because they mix lots of other.
You never know cheese. You never know. No, but they have fruit.
What about juices?
Choices.
Like in, even like sodas that are non-caffeinated, like Sprite and so on.
That's not really good for you. Although Prabhupada sometimes would drink 7-Up.
7-Up, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm reading that.
Yeah.
The devotee was confused. Like,
Because it was fizzy, and
yeah.
helped his digestion.
Correct.
Yeah. So because Prabhupada did, you can probably drink
Give that. But not enough.
but not Coca-Cola and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can always get fresh fruit in an airplane. They have fruits in their menu. And they don't just give you a whole apple. They cut. They have mixed fruits and as a choice. That's good. That's very good. Okay, of course, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Haribol. So our main takeaway today, because this is the last verse of the chapter, and it says, Chanchalam hi manak Krishna. The mind is always agitated. The best course is to fix the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. Mano Mayi Arpitam Stiram. If one seriously engages in Krishna consciousness, that is the highest perfectional stage. All Krishna conscious activities are on the highest perfectional level of human life. So that should be our takeaway. Chanchalam Himanat Krishna. The mind is always agitated. The best course is to fix the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. Mano Mayi Arpitam Stiram. If one seriously engages in Krishna consciousness, that is the highest perfectional stage. All Krishna conscious activities are on the highest perfectional level of human life. That's our takeaway for today.
Great. Okay. See you tonight at temple. Go Puja.
It's going to be a lot of fun.